We start moving our boundaries to please somebody else. We don't realize that no is a full sentence. You can say no. You don't have
Say
to
that
have.
again.
Yes. No is a full sentence. It doesn't have to be no because. It's no. Somebody invites you someplace and you just don't want to go. No, thank you for the invitation.
Erica, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be on the show today.
You have your own podcast.
Yes.
Get Rooted Radio. Yep.
Get Rooted Radio.
Tell me about that. Who's that for?
It's really for everybody. My target audience is typically women, but it's not just women. And
yes,
I have males on my show, I have females on my show, I have coaches, I have authors, anybody with a message about getting rooted, about living life, about loving yourself and others fully, and really letting go of what no longer serves you. And for me, that is a message that we all need. I love doing it because I love getting that message out for people who maybe don't want to get a coach or don't think they need one or can't afford one. This is information that they can get for free just by listening.
It's both inspirational and informational. Where you and I have this beautiful overlap is that Crazy Beautiful Truth, and a lot of my practice is very much about loving ourselves back to life. And what that is speaking to in my experience is when we are tired, when we are worn out, when we are all of those things, how do we get that injection of vitality, courage, creativity that allows us to feel connected? And I know that this is what you do both there, but also as an empowerment coach.
Yes.
Correct?
I mean, yes. And I love your message because it's about reconnection with self. It's about reclaiming maybe who we were before loss or burnout or a season of change. And when we can reclaim ourselves with presence, knowing your identity, getting your self-worth, it's both healing and gives ourselves permission to grow into somebody different.
That permission to grow into somebody different is a really big deal, I know, with the leaders that I work with, that it doesn't always have to be the way it's always been done.
Right.
Right. So how do you advise people, when do you recognize that moment that a pivot is coming or something new is needed, an injection of hope or inspiration or new skills, to up-level skills? What are the signs for you?
It's that whisper. I was just talking about it actually with a guest. It was intuition whispers. It's not always a loud bang at the door, but if you start trusting yourself, that inner GPS, your intuition, your gut feeling, when you start, I don't want to say wanting more, but you feel like something's lacking and you don't know what it is, or you're stuck in your position, whatever, your job, your family, whatever it is that you feel that there's something missing, that is the time you need to move forward. You owe it to yourself, your loved ones, and even your work environment to figure that out. You aren't going to give your all if you don't satisfy yourself.
To satisfy yourself, that is massive permission that our world doesn't give us, especially as women, in my experience, personally and as a coach.
That's where we stop waiting for permission or waiting for somebody to rescue us. We all know we're not the damsel in distress. We're not the princess waiting to, put her hair down to be saved. We need to water our own roots because the grass isn't always greener. And if it is, it's because they're watering it. So let's do something about that for ourselves. And like I said, we owe it to ourselves. If we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it.
Truer words have not been spoken. I think most of us as women, I hope, can feel the resonance of truth in that statement, right? I think about the places that we have to give ourselves permission to notice that something is off, to notice that still voice. And I know for you, as one who is recognized as a most inspiring and empowering women leader to watch in 2025, for example, you have these acknowledgments, you have reach and impact, more to the point. How do you identify the distinction between somebody self-punishing and assuming there's something wrong with them, and that thing that's stirring actually being a yearning for more or different or truer?
I think first it's stopping the negative self-talk or those limiting beliefs, because that's what that sound in your head is. Because what you're allowing yourself to abandon yourself. And when you say, I mean, I've been there. I'll make it an I statement. I've been there to say, why do I need something else? Why can't I just be happy where I'm at with what I have? And to me, I was doing that because I was afraid. I was afraid of not failing, because I had failed plenty of times. I was afraid of succeeding. What if I succeed? Then what? Then what do I do? And it's stop that limiting belief, stop the imposter syndrome, and go out there and make it happen. You might not make it happen right away. You might fall down, and that's okay, because you learn. After every not only every success, but every failure, you learn. And that to me is what's so important, because then we can turn the page and say, I'm ready now. I'm ready to move forward, and I know that this is what's best for me. When I feel fulfilled, I can pour into other people. And I know it's cliche, right? But you can't pour from an empty cup, but you can't. So if you don't have that joy, you're not feeling that joy, you're not feeling fulfilled. Wow. Feeling fulfilled. If you're not having those things, what are you doing, right? We don't want to just live, right? We want to thrive.
It's coming up for me to consider that when we're loving ourselves back into our lives, we are really loving ourselves back from somewhere. And from that place of survival is so often true. And that can be the mundane that this is, my experience. It can be an aversion to the mundane where I feel like something has to change. I've been doing this a long time. For example, I've been a coach for 22 years and I love it. It's been really satisfying. And over that period of time, there has been a call to add something, shift something, bring in somatic works. Let's get trauma informed. And it starts as an awareness of this isn't hitting the mark.
Right.
The other thing that I see in my practice is there are the times that crisis, when life throws us out of the ring, and we have to sit out there and and you have been there in a few different ways, that you have had I'll call it the opportunity to love yourself back to life, and you've had two really big ones. Where would you like to start?
I'd say the cancer diagnosis. Yep. And for me, it was surprising. I was not happy, of course, about it, but I was like, it's breast cancer. This, no offense, but cancer picked the wrong bleep. Yes, but it's breast cancer. It's not going to kill me. Typically breast cancer doesn't kill. It's when it goes other places. So we're going to go after this head on. I, of course, cried when I found out, but it wasn't that big a deal, because it's like, okay, I've got a mission. I've got something to do. But then 2 weeks later, right after I started my first chemo treatment, within 2 weeks of starting, I lost my hair. Boy, oh boy, did I cry. I bawled. I was blubbering. I called one of my sisters. I was out of the shower, not even having a towel on, and I'm FaceTiming her. And she says, what's the matter? I can't understand you. What is going on? Are you naked? Like, what? And I went, my hair, it's just coming out. And I realized I wasn't crying because of the hair. I was crying because I felt like I was losing myself. And, I had a double mastectomy, and I knew I was going to be getting reconstruction, but it was the scars. It was all these little things that were changing against my will, something I couldn't control. And I'll admit it, I'm a control freak. I usually get a little bit better, but I couldn't control this. And that very much bothered me. I couldn't control my hair falling out. I couldn't control the scars that I received and what I thought it was going to look like versus what it did. And for me, it was just losing myself. I felt insecure and ugly, just to not have that self-love. And I was shocked because I didn't think I was that vain. In my mind, it was like, why am I so upset about this? It's just hair. It'll come back. And it's just my body. No one's going to see it. I'm going to wear clothes. And it was because I had to see it every day. And that's when I started having that self-awareness that that's where I could start loving myself again. Because it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to feel those feelings. Just don't unpack and stay there. And so that's where I had to feel them, release them, let's move forward. But it was hard. I think getting rooted and healed and feeling empowered again. And it was something very little for me. It was after my surgery, I got breast tattoos. And so I got my whole chest tattooed. And I will tell you, before it was even done, I kept walking past the mirror and flashing myself because I felt pretty, because I didn't see the scars. It wasn't that constant reminder. And something as little as that made all the difference in the world. And
can I pause you there, Erica? Because you're pointing to something so big and important that you handled as a woman of resilience and clarity, I'm guessing, who knows how to move forward when things get hard. But I want to point to, for women everywhere, these two ideas that you're putting forward of feeling ugly and then reconnecting to your pretty, and how much that ties into our self-love. And this is something I've thought about in different contexts. This idea of vanity, that there is something we should be ashamed of about being connected to our beauty as part of our expression. What comes up for you as you reflect just on that piece of it?
Well, and that I'm glad you did stop and bring that up, because it's not, right? I came to realize it wasn't vain. It was, I felt an identity. I'm still that person underneath, but I had to remind myself that I was still that person underneath. And that's hard to get to. And it felt like I was changing, and I wasn't. I was still that same person, but I felt, because people can't always see inside you, people would think I was different. And that was hard. And the biggest thing is, it doesn't matter what you look like. I mean, how many times don't judge a book by its cover? But yet, when it happens to you, you're like, oh, do as I say, not as I do.
Right. Wait, I really like that cover.
Yes. But I liked my long dark hair. What happened? But yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know how many times I've told my nieces and nephews and my son, don't always go for the person who's good looking, because looks fade. What's important is how they treat you. If you're big on humor or intelligence, those things that matter. The looks, someday that's going to go away.
It's true. And once we're past 25, we seem to sort of figure out that might be real. It seems to me, And I have to imagine that there was an internal journey that while I hear you saying I'm the same person inside. And I know what you mean in the spirit of that. Right? But I have to imagine that there is an identity shift, that there is a heroine's journey that you have gone through that changes you on the inside too. True for you?
Absolutely. Especially, I learned to be more vulnerable and be okay being vulnerable, because I don't like to ask for help. And even if I don't ask for it and it's given to me, I don't always like to accept it. And I had to learn to accept it. My siblings, bless their heart, they didn't take no for an answer. They just pushed themselves right in. And I say that, and I joke with them about, oh, I cannot wait till you leave. Like, I can't wait till you're done, because you need to get out of my face. But I couldn't have done it without them. And they know that, yes, I'm stubborn. I'm proud. Not always bad things, but you need to learn how to be vulnerable. You need to learn how to ask for help and how to accept help, because you're going to need it in your life. And it's actually a sign of strength when you can admit you need help. I can't do it all myself. It's okay to need the support.
Yeah.
That was a big change for me, and for the better. I mean, definitely for the better.
Has it stuck with you?
Yes. So the next kind of phase of my life, it was my last surgery was August 30th of 2024. As we're 2025, yes. So August 30th of 2024. And just 10 short days later, I literally said, yes, I'm rid of you guys. I am so excited. Like, bye-bye. I don't need to see you for several weeks. And not even 10 days later, I got the news that my son had passed. So he passed September 9th of 2024. And I immediately called my siblings and were like, I lied. I need you again. I need you here. And without hesitation, they were there. But I don't know if I didn't go through the cancer journey and being so sick and needing, needing physical help to do things, that I would have been that quick to pick up the phone and say I needed help. And I think that would have been very detrimental to me, because losing my son, I was like, well, what's next? He's my life. I might as well just be done. And I feel like if I didn't have that journey with cancer to go first, I wouldn't have picked up the phone to ask for help. And I would have fallen probably into deep despair. So in a way, I'm grateful that I had that journey, because it allowed me to know vulnerability is okay, and it's good to ask for help.
Yeah. And you pointed to your pride and your independence. I can imagine your confidence, all of those things. And I know it frequently comes up for me that those are very good things. They're great traits. But for any kind of gift that we have, us being the boss of them instead of them being the boss of us,
Yes,
is incredibly helpful. And so being able to move through that vulnerable time and know immediately, to have that muscle in practice to ask for support and ask for help, is a big deal.
It is.
Can we name him? Can we name your son?
Connor.
Yeah, Connor.
So
he's become a big part of the movement that you are creating. Tell me about the movement.
So
Connor.
I decided his life should be a legacy, right? I'm trying to turn pain into purpose, my wounds into wisdom. And for that, I never want there to ever be an embarrassment. So he was in the military, he took his own life, and sometimes I by no means blame the military. So he loved the Marine Corps, but I think it's very hard for active military and veterans to get the help they need. One, because of the services that are available. Two, it's stigma, especially with active military, with veterans, with first responders. They need to be tough. They need to be resilient. They need to stuff down their feelings and not let them show. And that's not right. We should never tell anybody that that's what they need to do. And so for me, I think that was a contributing factor. He did not want to seek help because he didn't want to be seen as weak. He did not want that to jeopardize maybe his career, his futures. Let's say they said, oh, you've got a mental health issue. We got to take away your rifle. A Marine without a rifle, what are you? Yes. I think, and I'm projecting. It might not have been anything. It was a huge surprise, his death and that he took his own life. But my biggest thing is I want to make the awareness, because we can't prevent and change stuff until people are aware of the real issue. We can't deter it until there's policy changes. So I'm a part of the 22 for 22. It is said that 22 veterans or active military take their life every day, and we want to make that loud. There's been more deaths due to suicide post 9/11 than there have been in wars in the past decade. And that's scary. Yeah. And we need to get loud about it. We need people to know it's okay to not be okay, that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to go get help. Your life is worth it. We're better when you're here, and you're not a burden. It's not silly. None of that. And so we've been doing fundraisers. I've been working with the Mighty Oaks Foundation. It's out of Texas, but they do the active military veterans and first responders retreats, and they teach them. This one's a faith-based. They teach how to deal with your PTSD, deal with your mental health, help with family. So it's women and men, and it's just an amazing program. And then also Stop Soldier Suicide, where they have trained counselors that people can, it can be anywhere. They can call in. It's virtual sessions. And they also have this new thing called the Black Box Project, and which is amazing. You can donate phones, laptops of your loved one who took their life, and they will de-identify it, and they'll use that to try to track, was there a change in patterns, so that they can see how can we prevent things from happening. So they're looking at it from, let's stop the stigma first, let's get the people help that they that need the help, but also now how can we prevent this? What can we do? And which I love, because now we're looking at it holistically. We're looking at it from all angles, and how can we make this better for those out there?
Yeah. I really feel grateful to you for bringing voice to this. And it doesn't escape me the parallel to your journey around resilience and learning to ask for help yourself. That you are talking about active service members and veterans, but that this is something that you walked in some way. You were, just saying it was hard for you to ask for help, that you were proud and strong and independent and all of those things. And people had to insert themselves to get access to support of you. And my hope is that the listener hears that.
And that listeners not only hear that from their personal perspective, but also that means sometimes somebody's not going to reach out. We have to say, are you okay? Do you want to talk? And if they don't want to talk, to just sit with them. If you feel that somebody is suicidal, or maybe has suicidal ideations, or their patterns have changed, sometimes you don't have to say anything at all. You just need to sit with them, be there.
Yeah.
And that can help, because they know somebody cares.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, people who attempt or who succeed in suicide, at the time, all they're thinking, and this is a generalization, they're just thinking, how do I make the pain stop? That either the physical pain, the emotional pain, the mental pain. They're not thinking of the effect it's going to have on their loved ones, and they're thinking, how do I just make this feeling stop? And where we can be there is by asking the questions, by being pushy, by making sure that they know that even if you don't want to talk, I can just be here. I think that's important.
Really important. And that willingness to insert ourselves through the awkward and the uncomfortable, and really honoring the fact that we are not equipped for this. And this is something we do, I will go so far as to say, badly, culturally.
Yep.
In terms of being able to sit with other people's discomfort and step into those spaces. And it comes up for me, Erica, that we are more and more and more isolated, and we have the illusion of connection through social media, through, FaceTime, or I think it's really wonderful that I can stay in touch with my aunts and uncles and cousins in Ontario, Canada, from the Pacific Northwest corner of the United States. But that's not the same as being able to be there to hug my aunt when my uncle died, right? And sitting with that discomfort of, do I call? Is she ready to call? What if I say something silly? And I do this professionally. I do sitting in sacred space holding for a living as a coach with leaders, and it's still uncomfortable. So I really want to bow to this place and acknowledge that we're being called into uncomfortable space, and that's what makes a village work. When the village is working, in my imagination, what I see is people showing up on each other's stoops for coffee and noticing when somebody doesn't answer the door.
Right.
Noticing when somebody has shifted. You are pointing to patterns changing. There has to be enough relationship and recognition of patterns to be able to even understand and recognize a pattern change. Mm-hmm. And so how do you think about the impact of, this distance and isolation? And we don't do relationships now the way we did 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think COVID opened it up a little bit more. Not at the time, but if you think about it, that was 2020. And people were isolated because they couldn't come out of their homes. And now people kind of got used to that. And I mean, look how many people are working remotely. I used to work in an office with a whole bunch of people, and now everybody's remote. And it's got its benefits, of course. I'm not saying that, but you do get more isolated. People don't know how to interact in a large group. They don't know how to have a true communication, like a conversation one-on-one.
Yes.
Because they're doing it over a text message. They're typing, they're emailing, I could go on about the bullying aspects, because now it's faceless. So all
Yes.
these different things, but I think that COVID kind of put a realization on that it had been happening slowly all along because of the social media, because of the internet, because we have the capability of reaching out to anyone. And I think there's got to be a healthy medium. I think it's going to be hard for kids growing up and future leaders. While there are so many benefits, you don't know how to interact with somebody. You don't know
Yes.
how to be put in an uncomfortable position. And I mean, when somebody passes, it's like someone's like, I don't know what else to say, but I'm sorry. And I'm like, listen, I lost my son. And when somebody loses somebody, I still am like, I'm sorry, I'm sending you prayers. But I feel like that's so generic. But because it's uncomfortable and because we don't know how to deal with it, and we should know how to deal with grief, we should know how to deal with suicide, because those are parts of life. And
Yep.
just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's not going to happen.
Yes. This idea of loving ourselves back to life really includes this space, loving ourselves back into life, the life outside in the world at large. And the willingness, I feel this is something that, the movement that I want to be a part of is putting people back into conversation, having something to talk about, bothering to go be awkward, go be uncomfortable, because that'll give somebody else permission to be awkward and uncomfortable. And there's no way out but through. And just giving ourselves permission and being willing to be brave enough to step into that space. I know for me, when my dad died, I was 19 years old. What did I know? He'd been battling cancer for years. And I was so young. And what I found on the other end is, I don't care what you say, just don't say nothing.
Right.
Right? It was the silence and the lack of acknowledgement that was hard. And I'll also say, people say stupid stuff because we're all human, where I'm like, oh,
Absolutely.
that hurt. And I knew there was love or care behind it.
Most people aren't mean. Sometimes they
Right.
just say the wrong things. They're not. They don't say things intentionally to hurt you. And I always say people are trying to make sense of something. And so when they say, he's in a better place now, they mean that with love.
Right.
Yes, I mean, think about it. Well, no, I want him to be here. But they meant it with love. And, and I even later had said, well, if he was hurting that badly, I don't know that I would want him to continue hurting that badly. I'm not upset with people that say things, because after they say them, sometimes they even realize it. And so why make them feel worse? But it is hard. It's hard to have those conversations when people think it's a taboo topic. But I also look at maybe 50, not even 50 years ago, 30 years ago, people never said the C word. They never said
True.
cancer. It was,
That's
they
right.
had stomach issues, or there was this. They never said it. It was taboo. And so I feel like, I hope it doesn't take that long, but when we say suicide, like someone says, oh, my son died. Oh, what happened? And I say, he took his own life. They go, oh, no, it's okay. Like I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm not ashamed by
Yep.
it. It's the mental health disease that had its effect. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that someday it will be common knowledge to talk suicide and not have it be a stigma. Now we can look towards prevention just as we are with cancer now. Nobody is afraid to say cancer. Nobody's afraid to look for a cure, to do preventative things, to have regular check-ins. I think you go and get a PCP, you go and get a dentist, you go get an eye doctor. What about a therapist? What about a mental health professional? That should be assigned right when you go to the doctor first, you go to the dentist, you just get assigned these and you just go. If you haven't had a mental health issue in your lifetime, either you're extremely lucky or you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, it's true. And trying to deal with it alone. So as in your work then, how do you support leaders? I'm going to talk about women because I know that's largely your focus as an empowerment coach. What is your approach in terms of helping people learn how to deal with big emotions, big feels, big situations like this?
I said it before, feel the feelings. Don't unpack and stay there. You have to acknowledge the feeling. What are you feeling? Is it anger? Is it denial? In a leader, I'm upset because we performed lousy on that project, or we're not hitting our numbers. But also, when you acknowledge those feelings and feel those feelings, that means you're being authentic. And for me, a leader needs to be authentic. Don't lead in a way that you think you should lead. Don't copy somebody else if it's not authentic to you. Be a communicator. And I think that sometimes don't dictate, communicate. The biggest problem that we have is we don't communicate to hear and listen to what somebody's saying. We are listening to respond. If somebody's having a conversation and you're sitting there going, I got a good response, you're not listening to what that person is saying.
And people feel it.
Yes.
People, we know.
Yes. That is where we need to get better first. So as a leader, as a coach, I tell you, are you listening and hearing? Not just, yes, I see what they wrote in that email, but did you? Was it short? Are you reading into it? Is that the only way that you're communicating is through instant message, through emails? Are you having a face-to-face meeting if you can, or at least camera so you can see each other, so you can see body language, you can see, are their shoulders uptight, are there who cares, whatever, are they engaged? And you can't just have that one way of communicating. We read things in, we read tone in, and how can you when it's not somebody's voice? It's typed words.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first thing.
Can I bring you back to the first step? That you
Yes.
said two things that I think are so important. One is as the second part of the point around communication, listening to respond, noticing and bothering to pay attention to all of the stimuli, not just the words, the black and white type that you're seeing. Before that, you talked about authenticity and knowing how you feel. You don't have to stay there, but no.
Right.
I'm curious, in your experience, how many people are fluent in being able to identify what they're feeling?
I would say not a lot.
That's what I find too.
I'd say maybe 50%. And I can't even always identify it. There are times where I have this, of course, stages of grief. I was in anger for a while. But at first I was like, why? Why is everybody being so dumb? Why is everybody just ticking me off? Well, no, it's not them. They're not doing it. It's me. I was having anger and I didn't even know it. I wasn't realizing that that's what I was feeling. I just thought everybody else was being stupid, which, shame on me. But if you
shame
don't
on
have
you. Can I push on that?
Yeah.
On the shame on you part, because I've been there. And the way that I sometimes joke about this is when I'm in the car and the person driving in front of me is a schmuck and the guy behind me is an idiot, maybe the problem's in the middle. Maybe I'm projecting something on everybody else.
Yes.
And so I really want to acknowledge that sticky spot that you're pointing to where we don't know. We don't even realize. And how do you encourage people to grow that level of awareness just when something's off? I know for me, thinking something is wrong with everybody else has actually become one of my yellow flags to go,
Yes.
take a pause.
Yep.
Can everybody suddenly be an idiot?
It's the
probably no.
self-awareness. It is. It has to be that self-awareness and acknowledging to yourself that you, it was always a joke in my family. I may not always be right, but I'm never wrong. And again, big joke, but knowing
Yep.
that, yes, this could be me. And, or I know when this happens, I typically react like this. Let's get better at not reacting. Or practice a pause. Take that deep breath before spewing out something that maybe you'll regret later. But it comes back to self-awareness. And are
Yeah.
you honest with yourself? It's easy to be honest sometimes to other people, but you know yourself best. Even when you think you don't, you can lie to yourself. And if
Yes.
we stop lying to ourselves and become more self-aware, I think that's when we can get those moments to take a step back and let's, okay,
Yeah.
now this is what I'm feeling. It's not anger or like with kids. I remember my son tried to touch a hot stove, and I went, no, don't do that. And he's like, why are you mad at me? And I said, that sounded like anger. It wasn't. I was afraid that you were going to hurt yourself, and so I yelled. I'm sorry I yelled. I'm not angry with you. I was afraid. And sometimes those feelings can look the same. So it's
Yes.
that, right? It's, you have to say, what is this feeling? Is it anger? Is it I'm afraid? Is it loneliness? Is it regret? What is it?
And the other thing I hear you pointing to then is curiosity. So if
Yes.
I'm really trying to break down those moments where somebody's got something going on in the day and they know they're off, when they clue into the moment they're off, everybody else has known they're off for 2 hours. They clue in at hour, 3. And either everybody got something weird in their breakfast this morning or something's going on with me. What is it? And having the ability to name, and even when we don't have the ability to name, just being able to acknowledge, I'm off. And Brené Brown has this beautiful way of expressing this. This is coming up for me right now, where she and her husband talk about, and she has talked about, the idea of a 50-50 partnership is a joke. And this is
Yes.
true in marriage, this is true in leadership, all these things, that everybody has to give 100%. And we don't always have 100% to give. And so
Okay.
she talked about this shortcut that changed a lot of things for me. I don't know if you've heard this, but she'll come in and sometimes she'll just look at him. She's like, I'm at 70. He's like, I'm at 80. I got you. Or he'll come in. He's like, I'm at 30. And she's like, I'm at 25. We got a problem. But then they at least know. And I'm a huge advocate of emotional fluency and being able to name and learn and become intimate with what we're feeling and expressing. But that curiosity that you're pointing to, I think is such a gift to be able to say what's going on is an immensely powerful question. And
Yep.
even if we can say to the team, I'm at about 60%, I don't know what's going on, but this is where I'm at, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. Well, and it is, hey guys, it's even something as simple as my schedule today is going to be bad, right? Or we do check-ins and say this week is going to be ridiculous, and so if I am short with my responses, I'm not giving myself permission to be short with you, but if I do come across short, it's just because I'm trying to respond to you and not leave you hanging, but it might come out as me being short. I'm just wanting to make sure, like, and so acknowledge that. Again, don't set somebody up to give permission for them to be a jerk, right? I don't know how many times I've heard with leaders like, oh, that's just that person. Okay, so he's just allowed to do that and be a jerk, and it's okay because, oh, it's just him? No, perhaps there's another way we need to look at this. And that's where we all have days, or I'm not feeling 100%. So I might need a little extra hand holding today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fully believe in having those communications emotionally, mentally, physically, but also what is my schedule like, and therefore I might not be as available to you as I normally am. And if we don't have patience, that I feel like it's on us when we don't have
Yeah.
that conversation so that we can express our needs. It's boundary management like 101. We can be Wonder Woman because Wonder Woman is a state of mind, but we never want to fall into the Superwoman syndrome. And it's because we try to be all, do all, all the time. And it can be problematic, right? I don't want women to fall into the superwoman syndrome, because when we try to do it all, be it all for everybody all the time, we get burnt out. And we can have it all, right? As long as that all is defined by us, not by society, right? If you want to be a working mother and you want to have everything on the night and take them here and do this, and that's what you want, and you want to do that, as long as you're taking care of yourself and not spreading yourself so thin, great. But don't assume that is the expectation. When you start telling yourself, well, I should do this, and we start moving our boundaries to please somebody else, we don't realize that no is a full sentence. You can say no. You don't have
Say
to
that
have.
again.
No is a full sentence. It doesn't have to be no because. It's no. Somebody invites you someplace and you just don't want to go. No, thank you for the invitation. You don't have to have an excuse. You don't have to make something up. Or
Yep.
I really would love to meet you out for dinner, but my plate is full this week. Can we do it next week? If that works better, right? For that person, whatever it is. But don't think you have to say yes to everything. Set your boundaries, be clear about them. If you change your boundary and it's only this one time, it's temporary, like you've told your boss, I have to leave work by 5 to go pick up my son, whatever it might be. And you have a big project and you need to stay late because it's a big project and it's done in advance. Like, yes, just so you know, I am doing this. I've made special arrangements. This is the exception, not the rule, because we have this project. You need to have those parameters around there to make sure that you don't move that boundary and then it keeps moving and it keeps moving and keeps moving. Or if you have a boundary like hugger, right? I'm a hugger.
Yeah.
Not everybody's a hugger. You can't assume that you go up and hug somebody and they're pulling away from you like, is it okay that I hug you? Some people, that's their boundary. That's my personal space. Please do not invade it. But you need to communicate that both ways.
That's
and
such an important point.
Yeah.
What you're just saying, because I hear so many women talking about boundaries. Well, this is my boundary. I have boundaries. And we've done a good job of bringing it back into the vernacular, I think. But the next step is now, can we respect other people's boundaries?
Yes.
At the same time? That's the master level.
Yes.
And so I really appreciate you pointing it to that as well, that I have a boundary, here's my preference, and that's enough, by the way. And do we check with others?
If you can't respect somebody else's boundaries, how do you expect them to treat yours?
Right.
And when you start saying no, when you start setting those boundaries, you are going to get those people who push back, or say, you've changed. Why are you being so mean? You've turned real bossy lately. And it's because I'm finally sticking out for myself. Those are the takers, right? Those are the people who take. And maybe those aren't the right people to have in your life, or they're just the ones who are probably abusing it the most.
Yep. I've heard it said that those were the ones who are benefiting the most from the absence of them.
Yes.
Yeah, so true. I'm appreciating that you're pointing to a parallel when we were talking about dealing with big emotions and this idea of self-awareness, acknowledgement, and getting curious about it. So when we feel the resistance, when we want to say no, getting curious about, can I do it this time? Isn't an exception? Who's the voice in my head? I know that was the journey for me.
Yes.
When people asked and I said yes, it took me so long to figure out who was saying yes. Was that actually me? Was that the voice of good socialization? And getting curious about that, and then being able to have the courage to step into the awkward, uncomfortable place.
Yep.
And I'm noticing the parallel, and appreciating that with your coaching approach and your presence, bringing these same lessons up in different ways.
We forget. I mean, I had to relearn boundaries so many times, or what I used to have as a boundary no longer is. a boundary, or what I never had a boundary with, now I do. And it changes, and that's okay. You need to make sure that you're communicating those to the people in your life. Otherwise, it's confusion. But that was okay before, but now it's not. And you don't always have to explain yourself, but it does need to be communicated.
Yes, that's so real. So tell me about your latest project.
Oh, it is definitely a passion project of mine on here. It's called Like a Woman. Sorry, men, this is not anything to do with men bashing. I'm a woman, so it's like a woman. But it's going to be it's not just a book series. It's not just a co-author collaboration. It's a movement. It is learning to be ourselves as women, and how do we lead, how do we live, and how do we love. And it's through the eyes of the challenges that we have, being to live boldly, unapologetically, to love unconditionally, including ourselves, others, and how that goes forth in our life. And how are we leading? We as women have this emotional intelligence. We have a nurturing side a lot of times that we tend to leave out of the works in the leader, where I think that's actually a strength. And how do we use that as leaders? And so it's getting together these wonderful, brave women whose stories are way overdue to be told, and having them collaborate in a book series that speaks to living like a woman, loving like a woman, and leading like a woman. And I have had so many great conversations over the past few days, and I am so excited at the stories that are going to be told. I think it's going to be very therapeutic for the individuals who are writing, but their stories are going to be somebody else's roadmap on their journey to getting through their life. And I can't wait. I'm so excited.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, and I love your passion around this and your commitment and using the best of your experience to help to curate these kinds of stories. And I'm struck again when we talked about the village. This is a way of replicating the village. How do we speak into each other's lives?
It is. And it's so much, not only just the sisterhood and the support, right, that we will be giving one another, but it's also when somebody is like, this is what I'm looking for, this is who I'm hoping to reach. Now you have all these other folks' networks that, oh, I know that kind of person, let me help you. Because women collaborate, right? I always say girls compete, women collaborate. And that is something we are so good at, is collaborating and reaching down our hands and picking somebody up to say, come along with. And that's what it is. And that's why I say it's a movement, because we are helping each other to help journeys, right? To have the survival guide, for lack of better terms, for somebody else. And I say survival guide because I truly believe writing is therapeutic. It helps you unleash emotions that you didn't know were trapped, and also help you get heard, because sometimes our story's not heard and we feel that it's because it shouldn't be. And I say, no, your voice needs to be heard. You need to be loud about it. And that's what, to me, I think is going to be so exciting.
So good. And so you're taking applications for these stories.
Yes,
I'll be sure to put the link.
So it's not only do you get a chapter, right, in the book, you're going to have edited. We're going to do graphics for your name and your picture and all that wonderful marketing that we can do. We will position it on Amazon to be a #1 best-selling campaign, so that we can even get more kind of word out there about it. And then we're going to do an in-person mastermind where we can say, what can we do with this now? How can I have a platform for this, whether they want to speak, whether they want to use it because they're starting their own business. How do I turn this into something else? And how can each other support one another? Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
So
how
great.
can we support one another?
Yeah, how can we support one another? I'm tracking. And I'll say, this is not your first book. It's not your first rodeo. You've been there. You have both been featured. You have both rooted leadership, growing from within to lead with strength. You've had collaborations. You've got the Rooted Life, Live, Love,
Yes.
and Let Go.
That book has won 2 awards. That was my first solo book. It won the Professional Woman Network Literary Award and the International Impact Book Award. And it's up for 2025 Author of the Year, which I'll find out in Hollywood in October.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Congratulations, Erica. That is so great. I love that we can celebrate. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I will make sure that those links are there. I know for me, I have such a heart for, and again, this isn't anti-men. I have 3 brothers, right? And but for women, because it's the women that I run into who are second guessing their voices, who are second guessing
Yes.
their expression, and who have been socialized in many different ways to do so. Now, let me ask you this. You and I are sitting here, I'm entirely white passing. You are a white woman. How are you thinking about diversity and representation in this?
I want so much diversity. And I'm talking about age, 20 to 70, right? I don't, the age doesn't matter, right? I want to make sure that we have a good, I want ethnicity, race. I want to, right? Because we're not a white world, right? We are a very colorful world. And so I want women from all walks of life, all experiences, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you are a CEO. I want everybody in between, and because that's how the world is, and I believe we learn from one another's experiences. I don't want the pages to be all the same, because
Right.
what's the fun in that, first of all, because that's not how the real world works. And we want to make sure that we have proper representation. So please know that is a goal of mine, is to have a very diverse book and authors. So if you are interested, please reach out. You can message me. You can go online, any of the social media sites, and just reach out, ask questions. I'm happy to jump on the phone with you, or Zoom, Teams, you name it.
Thank you for that. I'll make sure that all of those links are in the episode as well, so that people know where to find you.
Perfect.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing Connor with us. Thank you for sharing the hard parts of your story with us. Thank you for sharing your passion and commitment to women and to the authentic life with us. It's a pleasure to meet your heart for the work, as well as the depth of your expertise and experience.
I truly appreciate being on, and it's always great to talk to you. It's just like we're sitting with a cup of coffee. And, yeah.
That's the goal.